Hey, what's up guys, my name is Charlie. Today we're going to be doing some more requested reaction videos, and this video was requested by Billy Mount, and it's going to be Cinematic Excrement episode 111, Under the Cherry Moon. Whew, that rolls right off the tongue, doesn't it? Yeah, I've never heard of the movie Under the Cherry Moon, but I'm sure it's going to be very fascinating because every time the Cinematic Excrement reviews a movie, it's normally really terrible, but it's really good. Yeah, let's see what this has to offer, shall we? Let's go. Warning, I'm not your lover, I'm not your friend, I am something that you'll never comprehend. A turkey twizzler? I don't know, it sounds like a riddle from Batman. I don't know, it sounds like, Prince lyrics? Sounds like the lyrics to the
Welcome
Prince
to
song
Cinematic Excrement and my
from a long
ongoing
time ago, I
quest to
remember.
review every movie that
I
has
don't know.
won the Razzie for Worst Picture. Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to get through this thing called Under the Cherry Moon.
Under the Cherry Moon, okay.
And I realized that was predictable as hell, but what else was I going to do?
I mean, it's Prince for crying out
Oh
loud.
my
I
god, it
cannot
is
start a review of
Prince.
a Prince
I
movie
knew
without referencing
those
the intro for
lyrics.
Let's Go Crazy. I just can't. I am legally obligated, probably. Under the Cherry Moon is a film by Prince Rogers Nelson, better known simply as Prince.
I'm
or
familiar
for a
with
brief
his
period
work.
during his musical career. Whatever that is. And what can I say about Prince that hasn't already been said? The man was a musical god taken from
Yeah.
us far too soon.
Way too
and I do
soon.
not use the term musical god lightly. I say it because it's true. He was an incredibly prolific artist who released almost 40 studio albums over about as many years, and he wrote songs for a multitude of other artists, including the Bangles, Cyndi Lauper, Madonna, and Alicia
Damn.
Keys. He was also incredibly controversial. You know that parental advisory label? Prince is the reason why that exists. I'm not kidding. Look it up. And above all else, he was
Probably.
an amazingly talented musician. His debut album, For You, featured 27 different instruments, and he played all of them. All
Damn.
of them.
Granted, most of them were some variation
I'm
on
not a
keyboard or
Prince
percussion,
fanatic,
but
I don't
still,
know a lot about him, but I do know
27
his work,
instruments
his music.
is nothing to sneeze at. Now, I consider myself to be fairly musically inclined. I've played piano since the age of
Yeah, I've
5,
played piano.
clarinet since the age of 10,
Yeah.
and over the years I've dabbled
Piano,
in viola, tenor saxophone, xylophone,
guitar.
marimba, and a few other percussion instruments.
Same here,
and
yeah.
synthesizer, if you want to count that as a separate instrument. I even sang in a choir once upon a time.
Oh, damn.
Then puberty
I've never
hit, and
done
it was
that.
all downhill from there. But the point is, I
Yeah.
am very musically talented and have been labeled as such by many, many people over the course of my life.
I play the harmonica.
I do not
I
tell
like
you
the
this to brag.
harmonica.
I am
I
not
like
trying
playing
to toot my
blues.
own horn or anything of the sort. No, 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 no. I tell you this because when I say that next to Prince, I look like a small child learning how to play chopsticks, I want you to
Yeah.
understand where I'm coming from.
Compared to fucking
I
Prince.
could never
Prince
hope to
is-
be as talented as that man was, and you mark my words, 100 years from now, they will be talking about the music of Prince the way we talk about Mozart or Beethoven today.
Where am I going with this, you might well ask? Well, I am about to shit all over a movie that Prince made. There's no getting
Damn.
around that. I am about to
Prince
bash this
is
movie
in
because
this
it's
movie.
terrible. And I want to be clear that I am not doing this from a place of hate or spite. Far from it. I have nothing but respect for his accomplishments, his musical talents, and, if Charlie Murphy is to be believed, his mad baller skills. I am doing this with the recognition that even the mightiest among us stumble and fall now and then. And the
Okay.
phrase stumble and fall is probably the best way to describe Under the Cherry Moon.
But before we get to that, let's back up a bit.
Prince's first foray into the world of cinema came in 1984 with Purple Rain, directed by
Purple
Albert
Rain.
Magnoli and starring the actual members of The Time, Apollonia 6, and Prince's band The Revolution. The film was loosely based on Prince's own life. He plays a singer referred to only as The Kid, an up-and-coming musician
Kid.
playing club shows with his band and trying to catch that big break. Along the way, he has to deal with competition from other musical acts, creative differences with his bandmates, a burgeoning romance with another singer, and an abusive father at home.
And I
Damn.
thought the movie was okay. I didn't love it. I didn't hate it. It's fine.
It was
To be
meh,
honest,
I'm guessing.
I wasn't all that impressed with Prince's acting. The guy has charisma and stage presence to spare, but it seems like he has a lot of trouble getting out of stage performance mode. Almost everything he does looks like a pose, even when he's supposed to be angry.
He's fucking
Take this
Prince,
scene
of
where
course
he's
he's
trying to
supposed
confront
to
his father after he
pose.
just beat up his mother for the umpteenth time.
Wow.
me, motherfucker!
It's that little twirl at the end that really sells the rage, don't you think?
In fact, most of the acting in the movie wasn't all that great, which I suppose is to be expected. The cast was primarily made up of musicians, not actors, and it shows. And the story seems like it's trying to do too many things at once and feels a bit unfocused. But there are some bright spots. Clarence Williams III had some good scenes as the kid's father, and Morris Day did a pretty good job convincing me he was a raging egomaniacal dickhead. And it has a few legitimately funny moments, like this scene between Day and Jerome Benton.
Okay, what's the password?
You got it.
Got what?
The password.
Password is what?
Exactly.
The password is exactly?
No, exactly's on third base.
Damn.
But seriously, the movie is worth watching for that scene alone. Their timing is perfect.
But the best part of the movie is, naturally, the music. The Purple Rain album served as a soundtrack and has some classic Prince songs, including Let's Go Crazy, When Doves Cry, I Would Die For You, and, of course, the title track.
I Would Die
it's
For
some
You.
of Prince's best work,
Yeah, that's
and it earned him a freaking
lyrics
Oscar.
that
I just wish
we
the
saw
rest
at the
of the
beginning
film
of
was
the
as good
video,
as the
I believe.
soundtrack. In some ways, Purple Rain kind of reminds me of Bohemian Rhapsody. The
Hmm.
soundtrack was awesome. The movie, not so much.
I love
Also,
the
like
movie.
Bohemian Rhapsody,
I love,
the last 15 minutes is basically just a concert. One hell of a concert, to be sure, but if I want to watch a concert
Ayo.
video, I'll do just that. I'm supposed to be
Fucking
watching
Freddie
a movie
Mercury
here.
is my
For
hero.
the life of me, I will never understand how that movie got a Best Picture nomination. And how did it win Best Editing? The editing in that movie was objectively terrible. Unless that was somehow
I really enjoyed
the
the
John Ottman for having
Freddie
to basically
Mercury
finish
movie,
the movie on his
the new
own,
one.
since Bryan Singer had fucked off at that point.
I'm
Hold it,
saying
hold
Freddie
it, hold
Mercury
it.
because I can't pronounce the movie
One
name.
at a time, Sean. One at a time. Focus. Sorry, where were we? Oh, right, Purple Rain.
It isn't really my cup of tea, but I certainly don't hate it. It's
Turn
hard
this
to
up
hate
a
a
bit,
movie
shall
with
we?
that soundtrack. Like
There
I
we go.
said, it's fine. And if you're a fan of that flick, that's fine. More power to you. But whether you personally enjoyed it or not, it was a huge hit, pulling in about 10 times its $7 million budget. And if that
Okay.
wasn't enough, the album was certified diamond by the RIAA and earned Prince and the Revolution a Grammy.
So with all that success,
What's
naturally it was only a matter
this
of
got to
time
do with
before
Under the
Prince made
Cherry
another
Moon?
film. And that film was Under the Cherry Moon.
Oh, finally, we're getting to the
To say
fucking
it
movie.
was not as well received as
I was
Purple
like,
Rain
I was gonna
would
say,
be
what's
an
this one got to do with
understatement.
Under the Cherry
Under
Moon?
the Cherry Moon hit theaters on July 4th, 1986, and could only manage number 11 at the box office during its opening weekend. In fairness, this was not a good weekend for new movies. 5 of them debuted that weekend, the other 4 being Big Trouble in Little China, About Last
Big
Night,
Trouble
The
in
Great
Little
Mouse
China.
Detective, and the top-grossing new movie of that weekend, Psycho 3, which debuted at number 8.
Psycho
The
3.
top-grossing movie that weekend, if you're curious, was The Karate Kid Part 2 for the 3rd straight week. The same
Karate
would be true
Kid,
the following
yes.
week.
Woo,
And
buddy.
a popular movie being number
Karate
1
Kid
at the
Part
box
2.
office for a month
It was very
straight
enjoyable.
was actually fairly
A lot of
common
people
back
hated
then.
Part 2, but I
Not that
enjoyed
it
it.
doesn't happen today. Black Panther last year was on top for
Part
5
3
straight
sucked.
weekends, but that's the exception nowadays. Likely because Hollywood puts out many more movies than they used to, and society has a much shorter attention span. We consume the latest product and move the hell on. But back in the 80s and even into the 90s, it was not at all uncommon for a movie to be on top for 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 6 weeks, and beyond. Hell, for pretty much the entire winter season from late 90 to early 91, the number 1 movie at the box office was Home Alone.
Fucking
That
Home
kid and his
Alone,
movie-trapped house
Jesus.
dominated cinemas
Home
for
Alone is
12
always the
straight
winner of
weeks.
everything. Everyone watches it every
12.
Christmas.
Nothing since then has even come close.
Fucking Home Alone is
I know,
a fucking
I checked.
beast.
I do the
at
pointless,
conquering
mind-numbing
everything.
research so you don't have to.
Speaking of pointless and mind-numbing, let's get back to Under the Cherry Moon.
I enjoyed Home
The
Alone,
first
don't
thing
get me
you'll
wrong,
notice
I'm
is
not
the
knocking
movie
it.
is in black and
I
white.
like Home Alone. It's good.
I have no
First
idea
Home Alone
why.
movie is
It was
incredible.
actually filmed in color after the studio
Macaulay
objected to making
Culkin, I
a black and
believe.
white
His
movie, but
performance is
ultimately Prince
amazing.
got his way and it was converted to black and white in post. I guess they were going for a Casablanca type of vibe, and in the opening scene,
guess.
they largely succeed. But that's really the only scene where it succeeds. For the rest of the movie, the old-timey black and white look does not fit at all, especially with the very modern soundtrack from Prince and the Revolution. It's rather jarring.
Now, of course, it is possible to
boy.
do black and white in the modern era and do it well. Schindler's List certainly comes to mind.
Yeah,
Or
it
more
does.
recently,
Yeah, that's a
Roma.
good movie.
But with Under the Cherry Moon,
Tragic,
it feels
but
like they
good
had
movie.
some grand artistic purpose for doing black and white, but never really defined what that purpose was.
The movie opens with a voiceover introducing us to Christopher Tracy, played by Prince. Mr. Tracy, along with his cousin Tricky, played by Prince's Purple Rain co-star Jerome Benton, are American gigolos living in France who spend their time trying to con wealthy French women out of their money. Ain't that the American dream?
Oh, yes.
The men he knew came in all sizes, shapes, and colours, and they were all rich.
So he's still kind of a pig.
Christopher lived for all women, but he died for one.
Well, thanks for the spoilers.
During the opening scene, we see Tracy playing the piano and making eyes at one of the aforementioned wealthy French women while
fucking
Tricky
hell, it's
feeds him
Twilight
notes on
all over
napkins.
again.
A bit
The
that
staring.
starts out kind of funny but goes on
The
way
fucking
too
staring
long.
scenes.
And throughout this scene, the camera focuses almost exclusively on Prince and the woman he's trying to woo. There's clearly some other stuff going on in this club. We can hear an orchestra accompanying Tracy, and there appears to be a dancer in the background. So why are we focusing so much on... Oh, I should have guessed.
Prince didn't just star in this movie, he also directed it.
Oh,
And
come
boy,
on,
is
you
this a
can't be
vanity project
serious.
if ever I saw one. But it wasn't supposed to be this way.
The original director was Mary Lambert, who, at the time, was mainly known for directing music videos. She would later go on to direct the original version of Stephen King's Pet Sematary, as well as The Asylum's Megapython vs. Gatoroid.
Suffice to say, her career has had some ups and downs.
Under the Cherry Moon was to be her big screen debut. Unfortunately, she and Prince clashed over creative differences almost immediately, and she was demoted to an advisory role just 4 days into shooting. I presume she wanted to make a good movie, but Prince had other ideas. Ultimately, he fired her and took over directing duties himself. Normally, Directors Guild of America rules would not allow such a thing, but since they weren't filming in America, once again, Prince got his way.
Yeah.
I get the
He's
impression
the fucking
that
Prince.
was
He can
kind
do
of
what
how
he
Prince's
wants.
entire career went.
He can do what he
No
wants.
one ever wanted to tell him no. Now, normally this wasn't really a problem, since musically at least, he actually knew what he was doing.
Yeah, it was
but
the
making
music.
an
He's-
album and making a movie are two very different things.
The sort of
And
dance
if there was ever a
photography,
time
so to
when
speak.
Prince
The,
needed someone to tell him no, repeatedly, this was it.
Anyway, the story is Christopher and Tricky had their sights set on a beautiful young woman named Mary Sharon, played by Kristen Scott Thomas in her feature film debut. Mary just turned 21 and is about to receive a massive trust fund from her obscenely rich parents. So they crash her birthday party with the hopes of getting into her pants and her wallet. But getting
Wow.
into her pants might be difficult since, well...
How do you like my birthday suit?
What?
what?
I designed it myself.
You mean you've had plastic surgery?
And then,
What
draped
the
only in what
fuck?
appears to be a bedsheet, she
So-
starts playing the drums while the crowd chants, "Planet
She's
Rock,
nude?
you just can't stop."
I wish they would stop, because I have no
Well,
idea
unless she has
what the
confidence
fuck is
in her
going
own
on.
body. Not
This
a lot.
is our
Everyone has the
introduction to the
balls to
character,
go butt
and
naked.
it's completely batshit. She never acts like this for the rest of the movie, so I don't even know what the point was. Anyway, Chris eventually meets Mary face to face, and my god, even in black and white, that outfit is loud. And prepare yourself for a shock. Mary does not immediately take a liking to him.
And that makes him want her
You mean
more.
She doesn't fall head over heels in love with the arrogant, self-serving con artist who's constantly behind on his rent because he's too lazy to get a real job? The devil, you say?
But lest you think I'm on Team Mary, she's not much better. She's every bit as arrogant and self-centered as Christopher. The only difference is she's spoiled and rich. It appears we're meant to feel sympathy for her, as her father is withholding her trust fund unless she marries some other rich douchebag so their families can combine their respective fortunes.
Oh,
Okay.
no. You mean if you don't follow your father's wishes, you won't just get handed a pile of money that you never had to work a day in your life to earn? Fetch my tiny violin!
Over the course of the movie, these two eventually fall in love with each other, and I'll be damned if I can explain why. They have absolutely no reason to like
Maybe
each other,
because-
mainly because they have no likable qualities.
Maybe
There's no
because
chemistry
they-
between them at all, and yet the movie
They play
expects
hard
me
to
to
get,
buy this
and that
romance.
makes them want
Boy,
each
howdy,
other
is
more.
that asking a lot. And of course,
It's like
Mary's
Pride and
father does
Prejudice,
not approve of their
I'm guessing.
relationship. And don't get me wrong, he is an asshole. He's horribly controlling of his daughter, who is a grown-ass woman by
Sometimes
this
two
point.
negatives
He shows
attract a
concern for
positive.
nothing but his
It's a
wealth.
very
He wears a
weird
jacket with a dollar
thing.
sign on it, for Christ's sake. This man is a cartoon villain. And for bonus sleazeball points, he cheats on his wife.
So you would think I'd want to cheer Mary and Christopher on, out of spite if nothing else, but honestly, I'm hoping they all die. I know at least one of them will, but we'll get there.
So we watch their relationship blossom, and Chris ultimately comes to the conclusion
Oh,
that
it's
perhaps
blossoming,
he should
alright.
give up
He's
the con
fucking...
artist life. He truly
Jesus.
has fallen in love, and that's all he needs. And this dialogue, ugh.
I thought he would truly fall in love.
No matter what happened.
My God, was the screenwriter in high school when she wrote this?
But honestly, the dialogue isn't the thing that bothers
This
me
is
the
just
most.
called lust.
What
I don't
bothers me
think
the
it really
most
is called
Prince's
love.
Kissing.
I think it's just
It's
lust.
just awful.
Just wanting
What is
something
he even
because you
doing
can't
here?
have it.
How does a man who just oozes sexuality kiss like that? And if his kissing wasn't bad enough, the sex scene with him and Mary is even worse. And
Oh
may I
God, is
remind
it
you,
the rum
Prince
sex
directed
with
this
the belly
movie
button?
himself.
If I didn't know any better, based on that
Fuck
scene
me.
alone, I would swear Prince was a virgin were literally everything else about him not evidence to the contrary. That man got it and got it often. So what happened here?
Well, at some point, Mary learns the truth about Christopher's motivations for seeking a relationship with her because Tricky just blabs about it out of jealousy. And when he's asked why, his explanation is interesting.
What'd you do that for?
Because of the full moon, I'm a werewolf, bitch.
What? I don't get that.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. You know what? If anyone ever asked you to explain your actions and either you don't want to explain or just don't have an explanation, that should be your go-to answer. Why would you
there's,
put pineapple on pizza? Because it's a full moon and I'm a
Wallpaper,
werewolf,
Serenity,
bitch.
Firefly, I believe
Try it.
that's
Let me know how
there.
it goes.
And Young
But
Frankenstein
despite Tricky's
poster.
interference, Christopher manages to win Mary back
see
through
two
more crappy dialogue.
Posters that I'm familiar with on his wall.
I need a lifetime.
I need a drink.
And
Unfortunately,
I need
their
a drink as well.
relationship comes to a tragic end as Mary's father has one of his henchmen just straight up shoot Christopher in the back.
What?
Well, that was a surprise.
That's
I mean, I knew he was going to die. They told us he was going to die, but I didn't think he was just going to get straight up murdered.
And of course, it wouldn't be a vanity project without an overdramatic death scene. And if Christopher wasn't a horrible person, I might have cared that he died. And if Mary wasn't a horrible person, I might have cared that she finally told her father to get stuffed. But by the time we got to this point, I was just glad the movie was over.
And that's Under the Cherry Moon in a nutshell. It's not terribly interesting. Christopher
He
and
just
Mary
committed
are
murder.
horrible people,
You can't
and they
just
are
walk
horrible
away
for
from
each
that.
other.
Well, they're
Because
rich. They can
everyone
do
is
what the
horrible,
fuck they
there's
want.
really
Rich
no
people
one to
can do
root
what they
for,
want.
and
But
the
it's not
film
the
just
point. You
isn't
just
very
murdered.
well made.
As previously stated, the black and white format does not help this movie at all, and this lack of color is certainly not what you would expect from a colorful character like Prince. His acting has improved a bit since Purple Rain, but it still needs work, and his directing is just mind-boggling. The scene that really stands out to me is a phone call between Mary and Christopher.
I can't show you the whole thing because it will almost certainly get flagged by Content ID. Instead, I shall perform this piss-poor reenactment.
Okay.
Oh, and unlike Prince in the original scene, I will wear a shirt.
Okay.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Star Wars Return of the Jedi
What it is.
poster.
It's Mary.
Okay.
I was just wondering what you were doing.
The awkwardness.
Thinking.
God, this is painfully awkward. Oh, what the fuck? This is just... Come on. Oh, God, Jesus, have mercy.
About what?
Come on, hurry up. No, oh, Jesus, that went deep real fast. No pun intended, deep. But you get my meaning.
I am not exaggerating these pauses. It really is that ridiculous.
Damn,
And you
yeah.
would think a movie starring Prince would have some good
Okay,
musical
those
numbers,
pauses were
especially if
painful.
you had seen Purple Rain. And you'd be wrong. While there are some Prince songs in the soundtrack, unless you count Mountains during the ending credits, the movie has exactly one musical number, Girls and Boys. And really, it's only about 2/3 of a musical number because the song gets interrupted by Mary's father.
Why would you have a movie starring Prince and only have him perform 2/3 of a song? Why do you think people buy tickets to see a Prince movie? It ain't for his acting, I can tell you that.
So did anything in this movie work? Well, there were some things that didn't not work. Jerome Benton actually does a pretty good job as Christopher's sidekick, Tricky. He has pretty good comedic timing, and he and Prince played off each other well. I could believe these two were actually brothers.
Never seen the
or
movie, but I'm
cousins,
sure
or
it's...
whatever the hell they were supposed to be. It's not very clear.
Look at that
Their
money, it
relationship
looks
does
massive.
have some bizarre
There's
aspects,
no way
though, as
that money
evidenced
is
in
that
this
big.
scene where Chris is in the bath while wearing a hat, and Tricky is showering him with flower petals.
I really don't know what's going on here, but this is a film by Prince. For all
Yeah.
I know, wearing a hat in the bathtub and getting showered with flower petals was just a regular Tuesday night for him.
Yeah,
And
that's...
some of the comedic moments
You're watching
are
his real
actually
life.
kind of funny. There's a scene where Chris and Tricky are trying to claim they are not uneducated just because they came from Miami. Mary is incredulous.
There's nothing in Miami but people who weren't born there and drugs.
First of all, that was not a very good take. And second, how dare you? That is not fair to Miami. Not at all. They have a thriving porn industry, I'll have you know.
To show they are not uneducated, they teach Mary some words that they know and she doesn't. For example, recasto.
And what does recasto mean, you might
Don't
well
know.
ask? Well, if you wanted to buy a Sam Cooke album, where would you go?
Gusto? What?
The record store.
You know, the first time I watched that scene, I thought it was the dumbest thing ever.
I don't get it.
But I'm not going to lie. Over time, it's grown on me. And the thought occurs that even if I explain to some of the young people out there that it's another way of saying record store, they probably still won't get it. Because
Yeah.
record stores are damn near extinct.
But a handful
I just
of
don't...
funny and entertainingly bizarre moments
just don't get it.
aside,
It's
the
not
movie
funny.
is pretty bad, and it flopped
Record
big
store,
time.
yeah, but
Against
it's not
a reported
funny.
$12
How's that
million
funny?
budget, it only made about $10 million at the box office, and it
That's
took
like
home
saying
5 Razzies.
dog
Of course, it tied with
or
Howard the Duck for worst
doggy.
picture.
I mean,
Prince
it's
won
just...
worst actor, worst
That's not funny.
director, and worst original song for Love or Money. Jerome Benton also
Why
won
would
worst
he put that
supporting
in the
actor,
movie?
which I do not agree with at all. How he beat Tim Robbins for Howard the Duck is beyond me. Kristen Scott Thomas was nominated for Worst Supporting Actress and Worst New Star, which I vehemently disagree with. She did as well as she possibly could have considering what she had to work with. And those nominations are not fair to her at all. And it earned one more nomination for Worst Screenplay, and yeah, that one's fair. I haven't been able to find very many comments from Prince himself regarding this movie, but I did find this. I don't regret anything about Under the Cherry Moon. I learned that I can't direct what I didn't write. Well, that claim would be put to the test in Prince's next movie, Graffiti Bridge, a kinda, sorta, but not really sequel to Purple Rain, which he did in fact write and direct.
Oh,
And it
Jesus.
turns out Prince can't direct what he did right either.
I did enjoy it more than Under the Cherry Moon, but that's a low bar to clear. Graffiti Bridge is not so much a movie as an extended string of music videos, and the plot is kind of a hot mess. Once again, Prince plays the kid who now owns his own club, and Morris Day is back as a rival club owner who is trying to buy every club, including the kids, in an area called Seven Corners.
Which has 4 clubs. Makes sense if you don't think about it.
Yes.
And Ingrid Chavez
We're
shows
missing
up as
3.
some kind of
We're
guardian
missing a
angel or
3 there.
something so she can help Prince get in touch with his spiritual side or some shit, and yeah, it gets pretty weird, even for Prince. What's really weird is while there is clearly some romantic tension in the air, Prince never actually kisses his leading lady this time. Presumably because Ingrid saw Under the Cherry Moon and said no thank you. I can honestly say I was never bored with the film, but I was confused. Horribly, horribly confused. At least the music was good, though the lip syncing often wasn't.
But anyway, as previously mentioned, Under the Cherry Moon tied for Worst Picture of 1986 with Howard the Duck. So I guess the only question left to ask is, was the tie warranted? Well, I had to think about this one because Under the Cherry Moon and Howard the Duck are 2 very different movies, and as such, they are bad in different ways.
Howard the Duck is a silly sci-fi movie that
I liked
primarily
Howard the
failed by
Duck.
having
I thought it
terrible
was a very
comedy and
enjoyable
subpar
movie.
special effects. Under the Cherry Moon is a romantic drama that primarily failed by giving me characters I couldn't give a shit about and just being boring overall. And upon reflection, I think that's what makes Under the Cherry Moon the worst film of the two, because the worst thing a movie can be is boring. Howard the Duck is stupid. I may
It's
have said this in my
stupid, but
review
it
once
was
or
very
twice,
enjoyable.
but it's certainly not boring. It's too
yeah,
ridiculous to be boring. Under
got
the
some
Cherry
thrills.
Moon, while it has its moments, has a tendency to drag 2 tons of ass. So with
2
that in mind, I think a tie was the wrong call. Under the Cherry Moon should have been the sole winner. If you haven't seen it, it might be worth a watch if you're a
I
big
think I'm
Prince
gonna
fan,
give it a
but
skip.
in my opinion, you're better off sticking to Purple Rain. It's easily
I'm
the
not
best
really a
movie
huge
he ever
big
made,
Prince
and the other
fan,
two aren't
you know,
even close.
where he was born.
Well, thank God we're
Osage,
finally
and-
done with 1986. Next time, we get to move on to 87. And I have a feeling this is going to be painful.
Oh, Jesus.
Until then, I am the Smeghead, and Hollywood can suck it.
Okay. I think that's the end of the video. Okay, so yeah, Under the Cherry Moon. I didn't get most of the jokes in the movie, like that record store thing. I know he was talking about the record store, but I just don't find that funny. How's that funny? I mean, why would you burst out laughing over it? Now that's funny. no, but yeah, you know, just shortening a word is not funny. Just because you make a word smaller isn't funny. I don't know, maybe I'm missing something in the movie was trying to, you know, when the movie was trying to be funny, and most of you found that funny, but I did not find that funny. It was just weird and bizarre. Yeah, Under the Cherry Moon, and it was a movie what I've observed that I wouldn't watch. This is something I wouldn't watch, and I'm not really familiar. Well, I'm familiar with Prince's music, but I'm not sort of familiar with where he was born, his family, his heritage, and what he struggled through. You know, like a complete and utter documentary on his entire life. You know, I haven't gone to that extent where I've learned every single, you know, antelope of information about him, where, you know, I'm a fanatic of Prince, where I need always records and music. You know, I'm not at that stage. I only enjoyed a couple of his songs. Yeah, I believe Prince died. It was a while back, I believe. I can't remember, but I remember the news when he died. I remember that. I heard the news when he died. It sucked. One more down. You know, another few great legends to go. Yeah, if you like this video, make sure to give a like, comment down below, and make sure to subscribe to my channel if you enjoy my content. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.